ESPN 94.9, The Fan.
30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. It's the George Plaster Show, featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famers Kelly Holcomb and young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in on, let's see, what would we call this? A cloudy, overcast Friday in Nashville, Tennessee. Those of you watching by way of podcast, you can tell we are out and about in Lebanon, Tennessee at the Sports Spectacular and Collectibles Expo. As you can see in the background, there is a lot going on, and over the weekend, this is going to be a busy, hopping place. A bunch of card collectibles. My buddy John English from over in the Shelbyville area is one of those. We're excited to be here. My friend Jeff Lowe puts this together. Jeff had me do, 2.5 years ago, a wonderful evening with Dale Murphy, where Dale Murphy and I did about a 1-hour Q&A. And then a year later, the Hall of Famer and maybe the best catcher in the history of baseball, Johnny Bench, and I did a deal from a theater set up in Tullahoma, Tennessee. Now, I have been, Billy, to this particular site in Lebanon, the Expo Center, any number of times over the years. And it's good to be back here. A lot of good things happening in Lebanon.
Yeah, it's a big place.
Yeah.
And it's a nice, it's everything about it is nice too. And looking around, I've never seen more baseball cards in my entire life. And some interesting people with a lot of stories walking around here.
There are a lot of stories, yes.
But like Mickey Mantle, history and like all kinds of people that you can sit down with and just talk whatever you want in the sports world. It's pretty cool.
One of the collectors is an old Rio Bravo alum, and we have sat around. Rio Bravo was the promotion that we did on West End Avenue when the Oilers first moved to Nashville and played for a year at Vandy, and that was really cool. So a little bit of what will go on today. Some of you may have heard the interview yesterday with Denny McLain, the last Major League Baseball pitcher to win 30 games in a season, 1968. He will be here tomorrow. Later in the show, we will be joined by former Titan and former University of Tennessee star Joey Kent. And the same story for Albert Haynesworth around 4:30 this afternoon. We'll talk to Albert. I would describe Albert as, when he was healthy and 100%, as destructive a defensive lineman as there was in the NFL when he was right. When he was right and healthy, he killed people, absolutely crushed them.
He was a beast.
He was a beast, and yet a really good guy, as we'll discover today around 4:30. Okay, so Kelly is not with us, as is the case most every Friday. I guess we've worked it where you see me in the corner of the picture. That's not necessarily a good thing, but you can kind of see all the activity going on in the background. It's a busy place.
Yeah, we got a lot going on. And we've got a lot going on in the sports world as well. This update brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. And my laptop has frozen all of a sudden.
I noticed mine had too.
But I think we're still on the air. So,
well, that's good. Maybe somebody at the station can confirm that for us.
Yes.
We need confirmation.
But we do have a time change with Vanderbilt baseball. Their game was supposed to start at 6, got moved up to 5 o'clock local time because of severe weather. That's supposed to be rolling in later tonight here in Nashville. So the gates will open at 4 instead of 5, and the game will start at 5 tonight.
That is not a surprise. Now, you would seldom ever have that happen on the Major League Baseball level. College is a little smarter than that. They realize their issues,
Right.
and they try to deal with those issues.
Well, the turf field helps you out big time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
Are we
that's,
live again?
Yeah, we're good. I think
Sure
we've been
looked
good.
like we were moving
we just had
again.
a little freeze there.
Okay.
But
A
so
freeze warning out in Lebanon.
Yep. So Vandy's game against Kentucky moved to 5 o'clock. All the games in the SEC started last night. Tennessee got a win over Arkansas, 10-7. Dalton Bargo, 2 home runs as the Vols hold off the Razorbacks. There was a lot of tension late in that game. Tennessee had to hold on. Game 2 will be tonight at 6:30 at Baum-Walker Stadium. Tennessee's last win in Fayetteville was all the way back in 2015.
Yeah, so all of the thoughts of Tennessee's dead and buried might want to dig them out of the grave, because that win just might have gotten them a home regional next weekend. One more victory, I think they're a shoe-in.
Cements it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one more, they'll definitely be in. They're 41-13 overall, 16-12 in SEC play. Had some other results last night. Number 1, LSU went down to South Carolina, 6-5. Mississippi State over Missouri, 25-7.
Now, they're searching for a coach.
Mississippi State is, yes.
Yeah, what's the rumor?
I'm hearing a little bit of smoke around Nick Mingione at Kentucky, which
Okay.
would be, I think that'd be a good hire. He's done a really good job at Kentucky, but you never know. They could already have their guy in mind. They probably do. I mean, especially going back to the A&M situation last year, where before the World Series even started, their head coach was off to Texas. Basically, had already signed it. So that's what you got in the SEC tonight. The games will roll along. Like we just mentioned, Vanderbilt and Kentucky at 5. Tennessee and Arkansas will go at 6:30. PGA Championship rolling along. Never heard of this guy. Jonathan Vegas is 8 under and atop the leaderboard in Charlotte at Quail Hollow. Alex Smalley in second at 7 under. Matthew Pavon at 6 under. Max Homa's playing well. He's tied for 4th at 5 under. So that's what you got going on in the PGA Championship.
I've never heard of any of them. But I do know, speaking of Vegas, whatever gets said in Vegas supposedly stays in Vegas.
Supposedly. So that's what you got. A lot of really good players struggling. Scheffler's tied for 11th. He's only 3 under. You got some really good golfers that are struggling so far this weekend.
So it's pretty wide open going into the final 2 rounds.
Yeah, wide open at Quail Hollow. In the NBA, last night, the Nuggets beat the Thunder 119-107 to tie the series
Yes,
and
I
force a Game 7.
I believe you all were told, take Denver.
We were told that.
Yes, you were.
They're on a little bit of a hot streak here.
2 in a row. It's bad when 2 in a row constitutes a hot streak.
That's pretty bad.
That's not a good sign.
Let's be better. The Celtics are looking to be better tonight, 7 o'clock, Game 6, trying to even the series and force a Game 7. Would Game 7 be in Boston? That's right.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, this is do or die time for the Knicks. There will be pressure on them. There will be big pressure on them, especially if it doesn't go well early. And by the way, we will have a play on that game at the end of the show.
Okay.
I know you breathlessly await that.
I can't wait. I'm on pins and needles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure you are.
Jason Tatum, he will not be far from Madison Square Garden when the Celtics face off with the Knicks tonight. He's been released from a New York hospital following surgery to repair the ruptured Achilles tendon that he suffered in Game 4. He did meet with teammates yesterday at the team hotel for the first time since he was carried off. So,
simply put, we wish him the best in his recovery. This is a terrible thing that has happened, and hopefully somewhere down the road, people can smile a little bit more about it.
In the NHL, tonight we've got the Maple Leafs and Panthers. Florida leads that series 3-2, trying to win it tonight. But last night, you had an interesting result. The Canes ended that series. They wiped the floor with the Capitals in that series. They win it 4-1, won the game 3-1 last night, but won the series 4-1. Dallas now leads the series over the Jets after shutting them out 4-0 last night.
I believe someone
the Jets shot
isolated Winnipeg.
I believe so.
Yeah. How about old Winnipeg? By the way, they're going to get clobbered tomorrow night in Dallas.
You think so?
Yes, Dallas will take them out of their misery. In fact, I should have put that down as a key selection.
Maybe you can change that.
Okay.
Jamie Benn, by the way, was fined $5,000 for roughing the Jets' Mark Scheifele. So I missed that.
And in that world, that's a deck chair off the Queen Mary.
Yeah, that
doesn't amount to squat.
Doesn't mean a whole lot.
No, it really doesn't.
But
if I get fined that, whoo.
That's what you've got in the NHL. Bill Belichick back in the news. This isn't very newsworthy, but he made some comments appearing on Good Morning America to promote his new book, The Art of Winning. He said he has learned every day since becoming North Carolina head coach last December, his first collegiate head coaching job. He said, I've learned so much being back in the college environment, whether it be recruiting, the college game, the rules, the hash marks, some strategy, and putting a team together. I learn every day.
Well, I believe that because, it's not like he had been coaching on the college level. Now, the NIL part, he dealt with all the time on the pro level. That shouldn't be the surprise. But the rules are different in college, although last I checked, there are no rules.
Right.
I don't doubt what he's saying for a minute.
I wonder about how this ends. I really do. Even up until this season, I mean, it's not like it's gotten crazy ugly, but it's not a good feeling.
There is a part of me that wonders if this is a one and done, especially if an NFL team comes calling. I'm kind of like you. I can't see this being a long-term, when I say long-term, 3 years, 4 years at his age. But you know what? Maybe I'm wrong.
Braves beat the Nationals last night, 5-2.
That was a day game.
My bad.
That was yesterday's news. You're done, aren't you?
I'm done.
Okay. What time is it?
3:12.
3:12. Okay. Later in the show, right around 4 o'clock, let me kind of tell you what we're going to do. Mitch Light from The Athletic is going to join us. Mitch knows as much college baseball as is out there to be learned. He is a walking encyclopedia of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to having him on in a few minutes. Then around 3:45, we'll meet up with former University of Tennessee and later Tennessee Titan wide receiver Joey Kent. At 4 o'clock today, we're going to discuss this book that is coming out right now that Seth Wickersham, who is a really great sports author, has written. And in there are some really inflammatory stuff from the family or the camp, if you want, of Chicago Bears quarterback Caleb Williams, who comes out in this thing, basically the dad does, saying, I don't want him playing in Chicago.
Right.
Wow. Very explosive. So we'll get into that. And then Albert Haynesworth will join us at 4:30. So we've got a plenty full show on this Friday afternoon. We'll go to the break, and then we will have Mitch Light join us to talk college baseball in particular. Where is Tennessee in all this? Where is Vanderbilt in all this? This is 94.9, The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
At Wilson Bank and Trust, we believe you shouldn't have to choose between personal service and digital solutions. As your local independent bank, we're proud to offer the relationships and trusted service you expect, along with the tools and technology that keep you moving forward. So whether you're growing a business, buying a home, or planning for the future, we're here to help. Because this isn't just where we work, it's where we live too. Wilson Bank and Trust, here to get you there. Member FDIC.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com. 1,000 trailers and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
Looking for your favorite sports?
How about sports? You follow sports?
We probably have it. Just log on to the Information Superhighway. Oh, they don't call it that anymore?
To start, press any key. Where's the any key?
Head to thegamenashville.com.
The password, we're in.
You'll find what time your game starts and what station it's on.
Oh, they have the internet on computers now.
That's what's up. Your sports live here.
What an age we live in.
On the Game Nashville Sports Network. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Well, if you're watching the podcast, you can tell we got a lot of busy stuff going on from the Expo Center in Lebanon, Tennessee this weekend. The Sports Spectacular and Collectibles Expo, and they're not kidding. Boy, they have got a lot of stuff. If you're into that, Lebanon, Tennessee, tomorrow or Sunday is the place to be. Last night, Hawkins Field on Vanderbilt's campus was the place to be. 2-out, 3-run homer in the bottom of the ninth inning gives Vandy a dramatic 8-7 win over Kentucky. As has been the case over the last 2-3 weeks, we have wanted to get somebody who is wired into college baseball to come on, and Mitch Light is as wired as it is. Officially, he's a senior editor of college sports for The Athletic. Unofficially, he's wired. Trust me. Mitch, how you doing?
I'm good, George. I see it's very difficult to become a guest on your show. You basically run into someone at a baseball game, and the next day you're a guest on their show.
Well, you know what? Billy was the one. I'm not sure Billy knew that Willie was up there all night texting you. What does this mean? Who is this? Who is that? So, yeah, I guess that is true.
Well, good to be here, George.
But good to have you here. Thank you. Let's go with this to start with, sort of a state of the union of both Tennessee and Vandy. Let's start with Vandy. Did the win last night, in your mind, cinch that they will be a national seed, which means host first round, and if they get through it, host super regional?
I would say it probably bumped it from the 50 to 75, 80% range. Nothing happens in a vacuum at this time of year. So there's especially with so many SEC teams, George, contending and fighting for these slots. Let's say you lose your next two games, you're losing Hoover, you're 17-13 overall in the league, but you're 17-14 in aggregate, and Georgia or Tennessee or Auburn get hot and pass you. And then you're leaving it up to the committee to see what their appetite is for 5, 6, 7 national seeds. So I would say very good. They're in very good shape. One more win, I would think all but would assure it, though.
So last night, as people are walking out, but because this is sort of the second miracle victory in a row at home that they've had after the come-from-behind deal against Alabama, and you hear a lot of, man, there's something special going on. This is a team of destiny. And it does feel kind of like that a little bit.
Well, Vanderbilt has trailed twice this year, 7-2. And they've won both games on Braden Holcomb home runs. I would not advise that. I'm sure Tim Corbin would rather not be trailing 7-2. But I think what makes the fans happy was the way they won the games. Hitting home runs, showing some power. Guys like Braden Holcomb and Colin Barzey in previous games, showing that power, giving that middle of the lineup some pop. Because we know for the most part this team's going to pitch well. Obviously, Austin Nye had his trouble in the first inning, but the fact that they can score runs and score runs late gives you some hope. But yeah, I mean, there's just to do it in 2 straight home games is really something special, especially coming off that series win at Tennessee. You'd like to keep that momentum. So yeah, a great moment for Braden Holcomb, who has had his troubles, mostly last year. Got benched for about 3 or 4 games at points of this season and has been swinging the bat as well as anyone. I think he's second or third in the SEC in league games in OPS, so definitely providing that power bat in the middle of the order.
Mitch, in March, most people that saw them kind of thought the everyday lineup is kind of a dud. There's no power. There's no oomph. And then all of a sudden, it feels like they found something. What do you think it is they found?
Well, Tim Corbin kept preaching patience, what you would expect a coach to do. He's not going to panic. He's not going to say these guys aren't going to turn the corner. These are all highly ranked guys. Are they the future first rounders that we've seen in this program, the J.J. Bledays, Dansby Swanson, Austin Martins? Not at that level, but most of these guys in the everyday lineup were highly regarded coming out of high school, and he truly believed that they would come around. And it's just more reps, more at-bats. If you watch a guy like Braden Holcomb, his ability to recognize pitches better. He still strikes out some. You're going to see that out of your sluggers. But his ability to lay off those pitches low and outside, and I don't know the stats in front of me. I don't have them in front of me, George, but his 2-strike average has got to be very, very high. Both of his game-winning home runs have been with 2 strikes. So I guess the boring answer is these guys have just developed, and it took them a little bit longer than you might have hoped. A lot of these, going back to some of the elite Vanderbilt hitters, they hit is right when they got on campus. Austin Martin right off the bat, Brian Reynolds right off the bat. But these guys have taken a little bit more time.
So I got on a little bit of a soapbox when I started hearing that from a social media standpoint, people were bashing Tim Corbin 6 weeks ago. The game has passed him by, and which is such a bunch of bull. And I'll double down and say this might be the best coaching job he's ever done at Vandy, because he doesn't have what I would call the obvious superstar on this roster.
Yeah, I would agree, and not to go on too long here, but there's always context with everything, and you are what your record is. So you can't deny that the program the last couple of years had not won as much at a high level. But also 2 years ago, this team was a national seed, number 6 overall. They didn't get out of the regional, so people don't remember success that year. Last year was a disappointment. I think it was the draft class from 2 years ago. They had 3 offensive players who they expected to get through the draft, at least 2 of them. All 3 of those guys really had big senior seasons and shot up the draft boards and signed. that set the program back offensively for a couple of years, and we're kind of seeing that. Now, everyone loses prospects, guys to the draft, I get it, but those were guys they expected to get to campus. So, yeah, I mean, and this team is in league play. I look at league SEC numbers, because, everyone plays different type of schedules. Their home run numbers, their slugging numbers aren't at the top, but they're comparable. I think they're only 4 home runs behind Tennessee in league play. They have the same amount of home runs as Florida in league play, 2 behind LSU. So they found that power source that we're talking about. But I would agree with you. The fact that they're sitting here at 17-11 in the SEC without a first-round pitcher, J.D. Thompson's very good, probably second, third rounder, without an All-American, that tells you what type of job they've done. And it's the hidden stuff. I don't know what we call it hidden. They're very good defensively. They run the bases. All those little things. We saw that in the Tennessee series. When you give a team 4 outs and you let them run the bases like Tennessee did to Vanderbilt, you're going to let some runs come across. And Vanderbilt's really good at all those little things.
Mitch, did Tennessee, with the victory last night at Arkansas, did that clinch for them in your mind that they will host?
I don't think so. I think it put them in a much better shape, obviously, a much better position. Their RPI is good. They're at 14. They're 16 and 12. Their problem is kind of what I talked about with like the committee's appetite for how many hosts you get. They might have a resume that screams host, but the committee might not want to give X amount, 10, 8, 9, 10 hosts to Tennessee. I think if they win the series, they're in very, very good shape. And the good part, the positive part for Tennessee is they won their opener. They did not pitch Liam Doyle. Now, Arkansas did not pitch its ace either, so there's going to be a great pitching matchup in Fayetteville tonight. But just from I watched the night game, and just from a confidence standpoint, not that Tennessee baseball ever needs confidence, but for them to have that 7-3 lead, Nate Snead gets knocked around a little bit at 7-6. You're thinking, here we go again with this bullpen, but they tacked on 3 runs and won the game comfortably. So I would think they kind of got their swagger back a little bit.
Ultimately, isn't a key in this thing that they got to get A.J. Russell on his A game and probably put him in the starting rotation?
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, he obviously has the ability. I just don't know if they can get him stretched out in time from an inning standpoint. I know he pitched last night. I looked at the box score. I don't recall how many pitches he threw. They just do not have a number 3 starter, and they're going to have to do it by committee. And if you saw the post-game press conference, Tony Vitello basically threatened Marcus Phillips that if he doesn't hold runners on better, he's not going to pitch. Well, they can't afford not to pitch Marcus Phillips. They've got 2 really, really good frontline starters, and they're just going to have to piece it together, whether it's Russell starting game 3 and giving him 3 or 4 innings. But I just don't think we're going to get to a point this year, even if they make a deep run, where you can count on A.J. Russell to be that 3rd starter and give you 5 or 6 innings.
Give me some thoughts on this. I've thought for the last couple of years that Tennessee had some people beat before they ever started playing. They're kind of a mash unit. They're hitting all these home runs and just pulverizing people, in particular in Knoxville. It feels like even though they're really good, that they don't have that intimidation factor anymore.
No doubt about it. And it started to swing when Texas A&M went into Knoxville about a month ago. Tennessee run rules them on that Friday night, and then Texas A&M sweeps them the doubleheader. I think, put up 17 runs in one game. Tennessee has lost 4 straight home series, which for those of us that have watched this program closely over the last 4 years is almost unfathomable that they could be vulnerable at home. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely the case. They are not feared like they were. They still have a very good team, not an elite team. I mean, this is a team that doesn't play very good defense, especially in the infield. They don't hold runners on, and, they're just not as deep offensively as they've been, and the bullpen's showing some vulnerabilities. But from a talent standpoint, and you look at future and, current major league prospects and some of the younger guys in the program, from overall roster talent, it's probably LSU, Arkansas, and Tennessee as far as the most talented rosters. But again, some of these weaknesses we've been talking about are holding them back.
I want to pick your brain on this because you kind of hinted at it a couple of minutes ago. So we've got the SEC that wants to dominate in football. They've got, 40 million bids that they got in the men's basketball tournament. And now all of a sudden it feels like the same thing in baseball, but you kind of get this sense that the committee might get in the room and say, look, we're just not going to geographically make every host in that southern circle, if you want to call it that. Do you think that's really what's going to go on?
I don't think there's any ill will or anything. It's like we're not giving Tennessee a host because we don't like them or we don't like this team. I just think it's human nature. It's sort of good of the game. They've always wanted geographic diversity with this, whether it's SEC, ACC. But the problem is they're going to have some tough decisions to make because some teams like UC Irvine, which was looking like had a host resume in all season, they lose a home game last night to Fullerton. Their RPI takes a hit. A team like West Virginia, who had a really gaudy record, they won the Big 12, but they played a horrendous non-conference schedule. They lose at home to Kansas. They've lost midweek games to Penn State and Pitt recently, so it becomes harder to justify home sites for that. So I guess my point is, if all things are being equal, a West Virginia might get a home site over a Tennessee, and a UC Irvine, same thing over Ole Miss or Alabama. But some of those teams are fading, which is really going to help the SEC. But I tend to agree. I mean, like, no one wants to be like screwed out of a spot, but I think it's better for the game when you don't have, 10 of the 16 host sites going to SEC schools.
So I told the truth. Mitch Light is absolutely wired into this college baseball stuff. He is senior editor of college sports for The Athletic. Billy, what do you got for him?
Mitch, you taking the time. You touched on Vanderbilt there at the top. Remember them a couple of years ago, hosted a regional, I think beat Eastern Illinois, and then lost to an Oregon team that was very offensive. And
yes,
and that was a shock a little bit. It's pretty rare for Vanderbilt to lose a home regional, and it's hard to predict also. Like, you never know about the matchups. But do you think this Vanderbilt team is a different type of team that maybe isn't as susceptible to it being eliminated in their own home regional early?
Well, if you recall what happened 2 years ago, that had a very good starting pitching staff that was really banged up. I think Hunter Owen had just come back from injury and was able to pitch, but Carter Holton did not pitch. So that staff lacked depth, and then you get into the losers bracket. Although I'm going to contradict myself because they got into the losers bracket and lost a game 2-1 to Xavier. So they pitched very well. Yeah. But that team, the offense had really fizzled down the stretch there. So I would say this team is more complete. The bullpen's coming into form. I think guys like Levi Huseman, England Bryan, giving them so many more arms. But I'm telling you, there's going to be a lot of really good 2 seeds, I think, in the NCAA tournament this year, more so than in years past. Clemson won last night, but Clemson could drop to a 2 seed. Wake Forest just took its second game from Louisville. That's a very good offensive team. So you'd expect most 2 seeds to be better, but as you alluded to earlier, Vanderbilt's really had, when they've hosted regionals, they've usually done a pretty good job winning that game too. So obviously, Billy, if you're hosting, you're the better team in theory. You have all the confidence. You're at home, but I think Vanderbilt will be tested no matter who comes to Nashville as a 2 seed.
For Tennessee, I talked to a lot of Tennessee people, and a lot of what they're saying is, hey, I'd almost rather be on the road for a regional. Are you in that belief, Mitch, that Tennessee might be better off depending on the matchup on the road? We saw what they just did on the road at Arkansas. Are you in that mold?
I understand the argument. I don't know if I believe it. I think you host a regional, you win that Friday game 10-0, you get the fans all fired up, and you get that swagger back. The problem with going on the road, and this is master of the obvious, you're playing a really good team. You're playing a number 1 seed. So you just kind of look at the matchups. You'd obviously rather play an inferior team. So I get it that they've lost 4 straight or 4 or 5 home series, but I would always rather be home because you typically play better at home, even though they haven't, and the matchups are more favorable because you're playing a 2 seed rather than a 1 seed.
What does it say about the rest of the league? Obviously, it's not a down year in the league, but Texas has come in here and won the regular season title. We'll see what they do in Hoover. But for Jim Schlossnagle to go from A&M, a team that was in the league last year, now go to Texas, their in-state rival, not to mention they swept A&M just a few weeks ago. What does it say about Schlossnagle as a coach, but also is this maybe more of a down year, not as top-heavy type season in the SEC as we might have thought?
I'll push back a little bit just because the SEC, dominates the rankings, and rightfully so. I mean, everyone, whether you do polls like I do, 5 of the top 6, 7 of the top 9 are SEC schools. I think Texas, well, first of all, Schloss is a great coach. He wins everywhere, wins immediately wherever he's been. They're good. They're not great. They're not elite talent-wise. They won a lot of close games, and their schedule, they had a pretty favorable road schedule. Off the top of my head, they went to Missouri. They went to Mississippi State, went to Kentucky. Again, good teams. So I think it was sort of a confluence of events, like a perfect storm for them. But, you don't win 21 games in the SEC by accident. So a very good team. I still think the league is very, very good at the top. But if you ask a lot of people that follows very closely, they'd probably put Texas's roster right now, especially with the injuries. I know Max Ballou came back last night, but probably roster as a top 5 roster, but not a top 2 or 3 roster in the league.
All right, we've talked all about Vandy, Tennessee, the SEC, but if Vanderbilt hosts a regional, like you said, they're probably going to get a tough 2 seed. And some of these 4 seeds can be feisty as well. There's some local teams like a Tennessee Tech that are really good this year. Austin Peay has a chance to make the tournament. Who are some teams outside of just Vanderbilt and Tennessee that we haven't talked about yet that you think could make some noise? And even like a 1 seed in the group of 5 that could end up hosting and making some noise?
Well, there's been an interesting development today. This is a deep cut here, but Jack Oman, who is a freshman at Yale, who's put up just unbelievable numbers this year, like a 0.8 ERA. I was wondering what the committee would do if Yale wins its league. Where do they send Yale? Because, that's a brutal 1 versus 4 matchup for that number 1 seed if Yale did throw Jack Oman in the opener. He's a freshman from Arizona. They lost today to Harvard in the Ivy League tournament. They're in the losers bracket, and Oman gave up 3 runs there. So I've been monitoring that because that's not a number 1 seed that any SEC team wants to face there. So, but you're right. There's, Western Kentucky, if they get in, has had a really good year. Austin Peay is very good. So, I would say Louisville's a team that's going to be a number 2 seed. Vanderbilt went up there and lost. It's a very good offensive team. Miami and Duke, the ACC is not, it's bottom heavy. There's some bad teams at the bottom, but the middle of that league is very good. Georgia Tech, very offensive team. Duke is a team that got off to a slow start that's been playing really, really well. West Virginia, I mentioned them. They've won a ton of close games there. So, like I said before, Billy, I think there's a lot of really good 2 seeds out there, and a lot of it just is matchups. Are they top heavy with their pitching staff? Do they have 1 ace and then fall off after that? That's what makes postseason baseball so fun. Like I said, who would think twice about having to play Yale in the NCAA tournament, but that could be a terrible matchup for a number 1 seed.
By the way, for the record, Bruce Pearl, well, that's a nice shot at me right there, Billy. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Bruce Pearl agrees. Don't want to play Yale.
Exactly. So, Yale always very well coached on the basketball court, and evidently they've got a really good pitcher this year as well.
Mitch, thank you for taking the time to do this. Save me a seat. I'll be about an hour late.
Sounds good, George. Take care, guys.
Okay,
Thanks,
take
Mitch.
care. Mitch Light is with The Athletic. He is their senior editor of college sports. So, a couple of things. After the break, we're going to hear from former University of Tennessee and later Tennessee Titan wide receiver Joey Kent. At 4 o'clock, we're going to get into the book that Seth Wickersham has just gotten through writing that has all kinds of juicy stuff about Caleb Williams and his lack of desire to play for the Chicago Bears. Albert Haynesworth not going to be able to be with us, but we're going to learn a little bit at 4:30 about the card collector business. I don't pretend to know a lot, but we're going to learn more. So stick around. This is 94.9 The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2025 season. Create a summer of memories at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, and more. Tickets are on sale now.
This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
Flat Rock Motor Club is a members-only driving resort combining a world-class racetrack with exquisite amenities. Located on 800 acres of pristine countryside in the heart of Tennessee, their elite 3.5-mile club track is surrounded by sweeping views of manicured rolling hills. The charm of Tennessee can be felt with every hill you climb. Whether your beverage of choice is sweet tea or whiskey, at their premier driving resort, you will experience a sophisticated blend of country elegance and southern hospitality. For more information, log on to flatrockmotorclub.com.
In Lebanon, former Titans Javon Curse, Albert Haynesworth, and Joey Kent will all be there, and we'll broadcast our show on Friday the 16th. Parking is free, admission is $10, and I can't wait to meet all of you in Lebanon.
A lot of people want to define teams by singular performances.
Sports. Did he not go back into the game after that interception?
Let's get this turned around. And we're all saying, no, they don't.
Here.
You thought you were on your way.
Your sports live here.
On ESPN 94.9. The Fan.
And the Game Nashville Sports Network. It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
We are back in at the Expo Center, the Farm Bureau Expo Center. Over the weekend, there will be the Sports Spectacular and Collectible Expo. And those of you who are watching this by way of podcast, you can see right behind me what all is going on. There are a bunch of card collectors, and this will be one busy, busy place over the weekend. In a moment, we will meet up with former University of Tennessee wide receiver and later Tennessee Titan Joey Kent. And as soon as I get the go-to, we'll go to. And until then, we'll just stall around under the category of the tarp is on the field, time only has been called. So I'll kind of repeat this. Billy brought it up at the start of the show. The Vanderbilt-Kentucky game tonight has been moved up an hour. And I was looking earlier to see it will now be a 5 o'clock start. And I was looking at the weather forecast to see what actually is out there. They're acting like around 10 o'clock tonight that the rain and the wind and all that jazz will get in here for about 5 or 6 hours. So that's kind of where we are for the moment.
Yeah, smart move. I mean, it's only an hour, but you never know how much that could save you later in the night.
Well, it amazes me how few Major League Baseball teams do that. And I don't know what their rules are. And I get they've got people coming from long distances, which makes it different. But when you know there's bad weather coming, seems like it would be easier.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's a lot of the college teams have turf now, so I don't know if that plays into it. You know, with turf, you don't have to fields usually drain pretty well, so you don't have to do as much maintenance. Also, we're having trouble with reaching Joey Kent. So,
okay, well, let's talk a little bit about this book, and I wish I had all of the particulars in front of me. Give me just a second here, and I'll pull up a little bit of the exact particulars. Seth Wickersham, whether it's Wickersham or Wickersham, he is a great sports author, and he has just written a book that has got a lot of people yapping. The name of the book is Untitled, and here's essentially what went on in this book. And I apologize for kind of stalling around in this. As soon as my internet helps me, we'll get it going. Caleb Williams wanted nothing to do with the Chicago Bears as last year's NFL draft approached. And the 2022 Heisman Trophy winner and his father looked into how they could have a hand in which team selected him. In America's Kings, a biography of the quarterback, author Seth Wickersham describes how Williams and his father, Carl Williams, asked attorneys to find a workaround to the NFL's collective bargaining agreement, exploring signing with the U.S. League, the United Football League, and considered publicly ripping Chicago and the Bears to create a situation where it wouldn't work. Anyway, okay, I'm told, hold on to that thought.
Okay.
Because I'm told Joey Kent is on the line with us. Joey, of course, played with Peyton Manning at the University of Tennessee, was on the Titans Super Bowl team that made it to Atlanta in January of 2000. He will be part of this great expo that's going on behind us, and he joins us by phone. Joey, how you doing?
I'm good, man. It's been a long time since we talked.
Man, it has been. What are you up to?
Man, I have two kids. I have two kids that are in college now. I have a son that's graduating high school on Saturday. So he's going to Tennessee Chattanooga, and I have a senior now at UTK in nursing. So, yeah, that's been keeping me busy, working, trying to enjoy life.
So I have told people on the air that I believe the locker room when the Tennessee Titans got to Nashville is the single best locker room in the history of locker rooms. There were more good guys in that group than any I've ever been around. You were part of it. Why do you think it was that way?
I thought it was really refreshing. You know, me coming in as a rookie, I didn't know what to expect. But you're right. There were a lot of solid men in that locker room. And I think just the diversity that, you know, the team had prior to me getting there, you know, moving from Houston, I think they were just a close-knit team. And they welcomed, you know, the rookies with open arms. And, again, they were older gentlemen. But, you know what I mean? They were, you know, I was coming in at 22, 23, and there were a lot of older vets that were there that's been, you know, been around the league for a while and knew the ins and outs and just knew how to be pros. So I think that made the transition a little bit easier as far as just coming into a locker room that was as welcoming. And you had a team that also was hungry, that wanted to kind of take that next step forward to becoming a really good team.
It is funny you say all that because confessions of a sinner here. I absolutely thought when you all were coming to town that this was going to be a bunch of buttholes to deal with. And instead, you know, I find myself with 25 to 30 players on that roster who I considered friends, guys that would show up, even if I didn't ask them, when we would do the thing at the Wild Horse, you know, before and after games.
Yeah.
Coming over there. I just was caught really off guard that, and I'll I'll go to my grave believing it's the best locker room ever.
Yeah, and you gotta understand too. Guys didn't know much about Tennessee. Didn't know much about Nashville, so they were trying to indoctrinate themselves within the community. And I think the organization did a good job of really stressing to get out into the community. It was obviously different times back then, but you would see, Titans players or Oilers players all the time, either at dinner or, at church or at some type of event. I don't know how, the organization, I know they do a lot of community outreach now and guys are out and about, but it just seemed like obviously it was a different time back then. So, you would just see guys out all the time, in everyday life at the grocery store. So I think that helped too. It just made NFL players normal because we wanted to be a part of the community back then. And it was kind of normalized to see, guys out, doing their everyday life or just in the community trying to help other people.
Good Lord, you sound like you're reading my brain, which is really scary. You should tell nobody that.
I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's good or bad, George.
I don't think it's good. So let me ask you this. When you guys moved into the new stadium, the Nissan Stadium, I mean, there was no doubt that you all were pretty good. But I couldn't sit there in September of 99 and said, that team's going to the Super Bowl. When did you start to think we could really make a long run?
Yeah, I mean, think about the previous years, a couple years before, there were, 500 seasons, but we had talent. And then you had a young Steve McNair too, that was coming into his own. And, anytime you have number 9 underneath the center, you have a chance. And I think guys just started having that belief. You start off the season pretty well and it just kept rolling. And again, I think, the closeness of the team back then played a big part in taking that next step. And then you add in a guy like the freak, Javon, and I think that just took it over the top. And, from a defensive standpoint and, offensively, you just kind of held our own. We weren't the highest scoring team, but, you had Eddie, you had Frank, you had Steve, you had those three, you had that three-headed monster. You have a chance. And then you have a really nasty defense, led by, Blaine in the back, and Freak on the D line, man. That's a really good combination. And again, just throwing the closeness of the team back then and wanting to take that next step. And I think that's what kind of culminated to a really successful season that year in 99.
Joey, I can remember the smile on Steve McNair's face when I told him, someday on your tombstone will be the words, I am the toughest athlete that ever lived. He loved that when I said it to him. Had a big smile,
yeah.
But he really prided himself on that, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And you got to understand, Steve was just I didn't really see Steve a lot in the weight room, just to be honest with you. Obviously, we did our weight training, but it's not like he was a weight demon. Like he was there all the time. And he was just one of those guys that, he's from, Mississippi and just tough, strong, mentally strong. Just one of those guys, man, that, just kind of comes around every now and then that, you have, everybody knows a guy that maybe doesn't lift the most or is not the guy that's going to be jumping up and down and screaming and the rah-rah guy, but you'll take that guy with you if you needed somebody, if you want to go in, into an alley somewhere, you'll take him because he's going to be tough. He's going to be the toughest dude there. And that was Steve in my opinion.
Again, you were singing out of the same hymnal because I've had any number of his teammates say, look, it's not like he lived in the weight room. If he was in the weight room, it was to take a nap.
He was laughing and joking and looking at us lifting and laughing at us.
But, okay, would the word country strong be accurate?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. Just again, he's just one of those guys, man. They come around every now and then that I've ran across, a couple few and throughout my football career that's just strong, man, and tough, and that's a leader. And again, leadership comes in a lot of different ways too. He wasn't the most vocal guy. He did when he had to, right? But most of these guys that we're referring to they come into their own. They know who they are. They know what they can do on the football field. They know what they can do within the team as a leader. And you don't have to be the guy that's the loudest, because the respect is already there.
So you had already played for one incredible quarterback in college, in Peyton Manning. And the Peyton that I got to know a little bit was a guy that seemed to have all the T's crossed and the I's dotted. Talk to me about what it was like to play with him at Tennessee.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think not only myself, I think a lot of my teammates recognized he was different when he came in as a freshman. You got to remember, he came in with Brandon Stewart, and I guess they had 5 stars back then. I'm so old, I don't remember when the 5 stars started, but essentially they were both 5 stars coming in, obviously competing as true freshmen. And honestly, I thought Brandon Stewart would have a leg up on Peyton simply because he was more in the build and the mold of Heath Schuler, as far as very athletic, strong, very strong arm, just can run and throw on the move. So I just thought he would have the heads up or the advantage, just because of, we were coming off of Heath and how successful he was in that offense. But as the early part of the training camp went along, you can tell that Peyton was just different. Like, he was just highly motivated, he was very smart and very intelligent, and really the detail that he paid attention to and wanting to work after practice, and you can tell he was different. And when he got his opportunity, he was a nervous freshman like everybody else would be in that UCLA game out in at the Rose Bowl. I was in the huddle his first play, so you can tell the nervousness. But he was prepared, and obviously the rest is history. But he was one of those guys that you knew he was great. Obviously, I didn't know he would be one of the considered to be one of the greatest of all time, right? He's in that conversation of being the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but you knew he was something special early on, and just the work ethic that he had. And it really showed during the summer after his freshman year, and all the work that, we put in. And, he was, back then you only had a certain amount of time the coaches can be with you during the summer. So it was really up to me and him and Jay Graham during that time. We were kind of the leaders on offense to kind of get guys together to work out during the summer. You just don't understand the time that we put in during that summer and the next summers to kind of replicate what you saw on Saturdays. Everything that you saw on Saturdays really was built during the summer. And this was just Monday through Friday that we did something, either a 7-on-7, like volunteer 7-on-7, 1-on-1s, just route versus air. That's what made our chemistry, especially between him and I. What you saw on Saturdays was built during the summer, and the trust was built during the summer. So, some of the plays that we were able to accomplish, him and I it was just that trust factor, and knowing that I was going to be at the position, at the right place at the right time, and he was able to trust me along with my teammates as well.
Joey, for the record, I've gone long, but screw it, I don't care. I got to ask one last thing. One of my favorite people in the whole world in athletics is a former offensive coordinator of yours, David Cutcliffe. So much so that I took him down to Atlanta 2 years ago. He's a huge Braves fan. He had not been in the new stadium. And we went up before the game into the Braves television booth, and John Smoltz grilled him for 45 minutes, tried to offer him the Michigan State job. And David looked at him and said, "I'm retired, man. I'm not doing this anymore." But he was a big piece of that, wasn't he?
Yeah. I was fortunate to become an SEC legend a few years ago, and I had an opportunity to spend that morning or that evening with Coach Cutcliffe, and we just reminisced. And I thank him every time I see him for giving me the confidence or instilling into me the confidence to become the player that I was, and really believing in me, because I wasn't highly recruited coming out of Alabama, but him and Kippy Brown, they saw something in me to elevate me to the position as a starter, as a redshirt freshman, and I thank him every time I see him, because he's the one that along with Kippy believed in me, and he was such innovative mind. You got to understand, our base, a lot of times our base offense were 4 wides, and we went 5 wides regularly. And that was along with us in Florida, we were kind of somewhat ahead of our time back then as far as the concepts that we did and the routes that we did. We were able to run every single route from every single combination, and he prepared us every single day for Saturday. So Saturdays were, in some aspects, in some games, respectfully, some games were easy because of the way we were prepared Monday through Friday through his direction. So he's definitely one of the coaches that I give a lot of credit to for my success, for Tennessee's success, and we owe a lot of gratitude for his brilliance as an offensive coordinator.
Joey, you have always been a ton of fun to talk to. I feel like I'm back in 1999 for a minute talking to you, man. Go ahead.
No, I would love to jump. I would love to jump on anytime, man. Anytime you want. I would love to kind of talk Tennessee sometime, and looking forward to what the season is gonna unfold. I know there's gonna be a lot of changes with Tennessee, so I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen this fall, and also looking forward to being at the Farm Bureau Expo Center tomorrow. I think we'll be there from 11 to 1 I think I'll be there with Tim McGee and Anthony Miller. So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, I always look forward to talking to you, George. It's been fun.
I'm going to take you up on the offer. I'm going to call you again soon.
I'm looking forward to it, man. That'll be fun.
You take care, Joey. Talk to you.
You too.
So, Billy, as we end the interview, that right there is typical of what that locker room was like at the very beginning.
He sounds like a great guy.
Joey Kent is as good a human being as it gets. By the way, anybody that meets him tomorrow from 11 to 1, you'll find out the same thing that I have known for years. That was so much fun.
Yeah, the Steve McNair, just hearing him talk about, because being in a locker room with him, you don't always get a chance to talk with somebody that was in a locker room and played with Steve McNair as long as they did, and Peyton Manning too. So, I mean, he's played with some good quarterbacks, and not to mention he was a good player himself.
I miss Steve. We had a good relationship, and when I told him the thing about his tombstone, he just lit up. It was almost like he was saying, that is what I want on my tombstone. Okay, we're late to the break. Who cares? Screw it. Joey Kent's worth delaying it a little bit. This is 94.9, The Fan.
Looking for your favorite sports?
How about sports? You follow sports?
We probably have it. Just log on to the Information Superhighway. They don't call it that anymore?
To start, press any key. Where's the any key?
Head to theGameNashville.com.
The password, we're in.
You'll find what time your game starts and what station it's on.
Oh, they have the internet on computers now.
That's what's up. Your sports live here.
What an age we live in.
On the Game Nashville Sports Network.
It's the Electronic Express huge Memorial Day sale. Get up to 40% off 4K TVs, home theaters, and Bluetooth speakers. Up to 50% off appliances, housewares, and mattresses. And up to 30% off desktop computers, laptops, and smart home devices. Plus, save up to an additional $1,200 on eligible items. 24 months free financing? We've got that. Shop the Memorial Day sale in-store or at electronicexpress.com.
Family Leisure invites you to vacation at home with a new spa, pool, patio furniture, or wood play gym this summer.
I really want a spa.
40 spas on display from Artesian, Best Spas, and American Select.
Prices starting as low as $29.99.
Family Leisure has over 100 sets of patio furniture with free delivery.
That sounds good to me, too.
We should really look at the wood play gyms for the kids. Family Leisure has the Diamond Point swing set on sale at only $24.99 installed. Family Leisure's vacation at home sale in Franklin and Antioch.
Your sports live here. WBUZ HD3 Laverne. All around the world on the Game Nashville app. We are the Game Nashville Sports Network. ESPN 94.9. The Fan.
It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Well, it's looking like Vandy moving their game up to 5 o'clock is going to be a smart move. According to Davis Nolan from WKRN on Twitter, he said, we have a ton of instability and strong shear in the atmosphere that could lead to tornadoes.
Oh, wow.
Later tonight, as well as damaging winds and hail. Please keep up with the latest.
Oh, wow.
Stay tuned to your weather services. Could get ugly tonight, especially if you're headed to the Vandy, Kentucky game. And also in the world of sports, we got a big piece of NFL news.
What do you got?
According to Adam Schefter, the 49ers and quarterback Brock Purdy are finalizing a 5-year, $265 million contract.
It's good to be a quarterback.
As Mr. Irrelevant in 2022, he received a $77,000 signing bonus. A little over 3 years later, he gets a very relevant $265 million extension.
Wow. But you wonder what that does to the rest of that group. It's great when people get paid, but when you got a salary cap, the fact that he got all that money could well mean others who are important won't.
That could get interesting all of a sudden. But stat of the day is going to get interesting today, too. It's brought to you by Apple Collision Centers. You can find them in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. Give them a call, 615-754-9800, or log on to their website. That's applecollisioncenters.com.
This one is to try to get over the 500 mark for the week.
The big stat of the day. Which player has scored the most points in the NBA playoffs?
Okay, let's think about that for a minute, because it's obviously got to be one of the players that's in the second round. The obvious, before I really think about it, is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with Oklahoma City. Jalen Brunson is another one with the Knicks, who you would have to put in there until he got hurt. Jason Tatum would have been one of those names you would have thought about. Halliburton with the Indiana Pacers is one you'd have to think about. I don't think Nikola Jokic is there. I'm going to go Jalen Brunson.
Brunson?
Yep.
You are incorrect. Believe it or not.
No way.
It is Russell Westbrook.
No way.
Yep.
No, that is absolutely not true.
That's what Ty is saying.
No. We're going to want a redo. That answer is not accurate.
You don't think so?
No. Read the question again.
Who has scored the most points in this year's... Ty, here's the kicker. Who has scored the most bench points?
Oh, well, now I'll tell you the answer. By the way, it's not there. It's Russell Westbrook.
Correct.
You know what? I'm claiming victory.
We might as well. Okay, Ty said bench points. We might as well just give you that one.
Darn tootin'. It was a great week.
I was really confused, actually, too, reading this earlier today.
First of all, he hadn't shot the ball all that well. Westbrook has become a really hit or miss player.
Yeah.
When he's good, he's really good. And when he's not, it's airball city. Anyway, this means we are officially, even though we're God only knows how long late, about 10 minutes late, into the 4 o'clock hour from the Farm Bureau Expo Center in Lebanon, Tennessee. This weekend, big sports spectacular and collectible expo. Billy, have I ever told on the air the Billy Volek hospital story?
I don't think so.
Okay. So Billy, by the way, is coaching in Italy right now.
Really?
Just talked to him about 3 weeks ago. So Billy was a backup quarterback, a free agent, and he was either 7th round or undrafted. So him making the Titans was a shock to begin with. But as it turned out, he was a pretty darn good backup in the NFL. So he ends up starting a game.
He was undrafted, by the way.
Undrafted. So he starts a game that even Steve McNair is too hurt to play. And he and I have agreed that win, lose, or draw, he's going to come on the TV show that I did back then on Fox 17. The game ends, go to the locker room, and he runs into Darren McFarland, and he says, man, I'm not going to make it. Something's wrong. Okay, so before I know what's going on, they cart him out of there and get him to the hospital. And it turns out, and it gets out the next morning, he has a ruptured spleen. So my mom calls me, and she says, that young man who got hurt, isn't he a friend of yours? Yes, ma'am. He goes, he could die from this. That's very serious. And I was like, okay, ruptured spleen doesn't sound real good, but, you know, I'm thinking maybe she's gone a little overboard.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's in the hospital. We mention it, you know, during the update. And we go to the news at the top of the hour. And that day I probably went to it on time. And I look at my phone. It's Billy Volek.
Oh, my gosh.
And he says to me, he says, you got to get me out of this place. And I said, I'm not getting you out of this place. You know, I can see the headline. Talk show host kidnaps quarterback. Not going to happen. And I said, what's the problem? And Billy goes, the food sucks in here. And I said, well, now that's a different story. I said, tell me what it is you want. And when I get off the air at 6 o'clock, I'll go get it and bring it to you. That's my Billy Volek story.
He just wanted food.
He wanted food. He didn't care about anything else.
That's hilarious.
So you want to get back to Caleb Williams?
Let's do it.
So Caleb Williams indicated to confidants, apparently in this book, that he did not think he could work with then offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. Bears general manager Ryan Poles told Williams, we're drafting you no matter what. So I guess I don't understand. I mean, kudos to Seth Wickersham for getting Caleb Williams and the father to admit all this.
Yeah. Carl Williams, Caleb's father, told Seth Wickersham, Chicago is the place quarterbacks go to die.
He may be right about that.
He's not totally wrong about that. But Caleb, there's a lot of interesting quotes in this story, but he wondered aloud to confidants, do I want to go there? I don't think I can do it with former Bears OC Shane Waldron. And then also in this book, it's got a lot of details of what it means to be a quarterback at various levels from high school to college in the NFL and what it's like for legends in retirement. It features unprecedented access with dozens of quarterbacks and generational greats such as John Elway, Johnny Unitas, Warren Moon, members of the Manning family, Steve Young, and others. It also includes current quarterbacks such as Kirk Cousins and Drake May. So I'd like to read this. I mean, this looks like it's pretty good stuff. There's also details inside the recruitment of Arch Manning, and how competitive that circuit is at the youth level. Colin Hurley, LSU quarterback, his near-death car wreck in January. So, I mean, this is something I want to check out.
Okay. The fact that a father might be trying to finagle around what's best for his son, I get it. He wouldn't be the first dad that's tried to do that. If you go back as far as Eli Manning was originally drafted by the San Diego Chargers and was traded, I believe, 1-for-1 with Phillip Rivers, a trade that worked pretty darn well for both teams. So it's not the first time that's ever happened. But how stupid is it to tell all this in a book? Where does Caleb Williams benefit from that?
Well,
help me.
Especially now that they've got a new coaching staff. You know, if Waldron was still there and the coaches, you know, were still in place, you would think if it didn't work out this season for Williams and things kind of sputtered out, we could go to this book and say, well, he never even wanted to go here in the first place, and here's what his dad said, and this never should have happened. But now you've got new coaches in place, and if it doesn't work out now, the leverage is with the Bears, right? For them to say, hey, we made changes for you. We brought in some weapons, and you still didn't work out. So I'm with you. I don't really understand this. But you talked about Manning. Carl Williams in this book has said he spoke with Archie Manning. He met with labor lawyers and agents, and I mean he went to lengths to try to avoid this.
Well, first of all, the whole thought that the United Football League that would offer an alternative, really?
Yeah,
have you looked at that league? It ain't all that good.
No, the grass is not greener on that.
No. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't see how this can help Caleb Williams at all. First of all, this feels like another one of these entitled NIL name, image, likeness kind of deals where Caleb Williams made an absolute boatload of money to go to USC, was living in some penthouse kind of deal. That, you know, this was certainly not your normal college student living in the dorm. And so I guess I'm just scratching my head going, okay, good for Seth Wickersham that he was able to get them to admit all this. But now, how does Caleb Williams get looked at in Chicago?
Pressure. I mean, now, especially with these quotes coming out, does he not have to perform now? I mean, I know it's the Bears and it's the place where quarterbacks go to die, as we just heard in the quotes. But they've made changes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they've just sat there like a dead duck and not done anything for him. So this is the year for him he's got a chance to step up and prove that it's not where quarterbacks go to die.
Yeah, some of this is up to him ultimately. Look, Caleb Williams has got a lot of skills, and Ben Johnson is going to do nothing but help him. But this stuff that got out in this book, if he doesn't get off to a real good start under Ben Johnson, that fan base at Soldier Field is going to turn on him.
I'll say this. The book also sheds light on Caleb Williams' tough rookie season in which both Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron were fired and the Bears lost 10 straight games. At times, Williams said he would watch film alone with no instruction or guidance from the coaches. No one tells me what to watch. I just turn it on.
That's weird.
So this is one of the wilder. I mean, obviously,
dysfunctional.
We know that Waldron and Eberflus were not probably God's gift to football coaches.
Yeah.
But now, if you're Williams this year, they've made the changes. You got to go out there and perform.
Okay, we'll go to the break on that. When we come back, I'm going to learn, y'all are going to learn probably a little bit as well about what goes on in the card collectible world. You know, as a little kid, I had baseball cards, but I never really got into card collecting and what is the value and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to learn about that after the break. Pull up, if you will. Somebody sent us the actual playoff totals. Jokic is number 1, and Jalen Brunson is number 2. So what do I get out of that? Honorable mention. Others receiving votes, but definitely not the gold medal. So from Lebanon, Tennessee, this is 94.9 The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number 1, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun. If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you know what? You need to contact the folks at Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you're a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. So check them out today, pancoastbenefits.com, or call them at 615-292-3400.
Flat Rock Motor Club is a members-only driving resort combining a world-class racetrack with exquisite amenities. Located on 800 acres of pristine countryside in the heart of Tennessee, their elite 3.5-mile club track is surrounded by sweeping views of manicured rolling hills. The charm of Tennessee can be felt with every hill you climb. Whether your beverage of choice is sweet tea or whiskey, at their premier driving resort, you will experience a sophisticated blend of country elegance and southern hospitality. For more information, log on to flatrockmotorclub.com.
Next home game on Saturday, May 24th at 5 p.m. at Municipal Auditorium against the Oregon Lightning. To buy game tickets and Cats merchandise and find out how to get involved with the Cats, and certainly to get tickets to our next home game on May 24th, please visit NashvilleCats.com. Hope to see you at the Cats Party Memorial Day weekend. Claws out.
Flat Rock Motor Club is a members-only driving resort combining a world-class racetrack with exquisite amenities. Located on 800 acres of pristine countryside in the heart of Tennessee, their elite 3.5-mile club track is surrounded by sweeping views of manicured rolling hills. The charm of Tennessee can be felt with every hill you climb. Whether your beverage of choice is sweet tea or whiskey, at their premier driving resort, you will experience a sophisticated blend of country elegance and southern hospitality. For more information, log on to flatrockmotorclub.com.
Looking for your favorite sports?
How about sports? You follow sports?
We probably have it. Just log on to the Information Superhighway. Oh, they don't call it that anymore?
To start, press any key. Where's the any key?
Head to thegamenashville.com.
The password, we're in.
You'll find what time your game starts and what station it's on.
Oh, they have the internet on computers now.
That's what's up. Your sports live here.
What an age we live in.
On the Game Nashville Sports Network.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Record, Billy Derrick never once said happy birthday to me on the air.
Yeah, okay, not on the air, but
yeah, you didn't do squat. You didn't give me a present. You didn't do anything. but Lebanon's finest citizen, Tess Koutras, by way of courier Chris Koutras, has delivered one of my favorite foods, Oreos. Foods. And trust me when I tell you, when we go to the next commercial break, I am opening this sucker. And by the time we get out of here, there may not be as many. So I'm supposed to say that we are at the Sports Spectacular and Collectible Expo at the Farm Bureau Expo Center at the James Ward Ag Center grounds. That's a mouthful.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. We're not going any farther.
A lot of baseball
Don't
cards.
add any more words. We're not going any farther. So in a minute, we're going to learn a little bit about the card collecting stuff, although our guest has
vanished.
Well, he has vanished, although he's about to come. Billy Hinton is with a company called Baseball Card Exchange. I'd love to know how he got roped into this. Billy, good to have you with us.
You too.
How'd you get roped into this?
The job or the interview?
The interview.
Jeff came by the booth, asked if we would do one. I think you were going to talk to Nate earlier.
Okay.
So Nate had to leave, so he asked if I would be willing to do one.
Okay, so obviously this weekend, this is a big deal here, and probably a much bigger deal than people would know, except that they kind of see some of the activity going on. This is a big business, isn't it?
It is. It's grown a lot, especially since COVID. You know, it was always a big business in terms of sports cards, but we've seen a really big growth in the industry and the amount of people in it, different companies since COVID.
What do you think's caused that?
You know, I think when COVID hit, so many people that probably collected when they were younger, they had time that they were cleaning out their houses, you know, maybe going through stuff. You had time that you were kind of just at home, you know, thinking about what you wanted to do, you know, stuff to keep you entertained. And at that time, I think online breaking got real big, online selling platforms. And then when everything opened up again, people started going to shows and going to local shops, and just the growth hasn't stopped since then.
So we read these things about a Paul Skeens card worth whatever and Shohei Ohtani, but let me go back to the old stuff. Tell me, what is the most valuable card out there? Old.
The T206 Wagner, for sure.
Honus Wagner.
Yes. Yeah. Honus Wagner, the old tobacco cards. You know, outside of that, it'd be like a 1952 Topps Mantle and a PSA 10. I don't even know if there's been a recorded sale of one of those in a while. I think there's 3 of them in existence in a PSA 10. So they've been locked away in collections now for quite a while.
Billy, read that. That's insane.
Yep. $7 million, right? I think was the last.
Most expensive T206 Wagner sale, a record for any sports card at the time, sold for $7.2 million in a private sale.
It's a lot of money in the industry for sure. And that card has a lot of cool story behind it. You know, the fact that there's not a lot of existence.
For $7.25 million, it ought to be a cool story.
You know, he didn't like the fact that his card was being sold in tobacco products, because he viewed cards as something that should be for children.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't like his card being in tobacco products. So there's not a lot of them in existence. So that's always, you know, that's kind of one of those cards that I think even if you showed it to a lot of non-industry or non-card collectors, a lot of people have seen the Honus Wagner.
Okay. I always used to hear about Mickey Mantle, that if you had a Mickey Mantle card, check it out, it might really be worth something. Why is that? I mean, obviously Mantle was a great player. What's the big significance there?
52 Topps is the biggest Mantle. You know, kind of the same thing as the Wagner. You could show that card to a lot of people that aren't in the industry, don't collect, and they know that card has a lot of value to it. 52 Topps, it was a high number. High numbers came out later in the year. A lot of those got dumped famously into one of the rivers out by the Topps production factories. You know, it was back then, once football season started, baseball cards kind of became not what people were buying. So 52 Topps, the high numbers famously, there's not a lot of them. You know, there's not a ton of them out there because people had already kind of moved into purchasing football cards. But 52 Topps Mantle's a funny one because a lot of people call it his rookie card, but he actually had 51 Bowman is his true rookie card. But people talk about the 52 Topps as if it's his actual rookie, but it is his first Topps card.
Help me with Paul Skeens. Now, there's no doubt that he's going to be a great major league pitcher. He's got all the stuff, but he's only been a big leaguer for a couple of years. Why was that card worth $1.1 million?
So that one's Topps did, they call it the debut patches. And if you take a look at that card, there's a little patch in it that says, I think it says MLB debut, but that's worn the first time that a player plays in the pros. Every player gets it after the game. They take the patch off, they send them off to Topps. At the end of the year, they put them into a product Chrome update so you can pull those. So that was the big chase card of this year, was the Paul Skeens. And that's kind of the interesting thing of the industry, is that there's different paths for every type of collector. Some people look at the Paul Skeens and say, all right, this, like you said, he has everything to be a great pitcher, but we haven't seen the numbers, over a Hall of Fame career yet. But they still view it as worth, over $1 million, as we saw in that auction. And then you have the other half that'll look at, the vintage cards, and they want to chase the players like the Mantles, the Wagners, the Gehrigs that have had those proven careers, and they view that as what is worth putting the money into. So it's awesome that there's stuff for everybody in the industry.
Okay, before we go back to my stupid questions here, kind of tell people what all will go on this weekend, and if they're into this, why they need to come out to Lebanon.
Yeah, if you're a card collector, sports fan, any of that, it's an awesome show. As you can see behind me, there's a ton of different dealers set up. I've seen everything from T206 cards like we talked about, not the Wagner, but there's definitely stuff from that timeline all the way up to, the modern product that you can buy boxes of and open. Lots of stuff. I saw different price points, stuff for kids. In the back of the room, there's also stuff that's not for card collector, toys, memorabilia, that type of stuff. There's a guy over there that has a super cool collection of presidential autographs. So there's a little bit of everything here. If you walk the floor, there's some really cool stuff out there. Even if you're not looking to make a purchase, it's cool. Just come and take a look and see stuff that you don't see every day.
Okay, a couple of really good questions that have come up off the air. Trace asked the question, curious how the Pete Rose, shoeless Joe Jackson news has affected this industry. Is it too early to tell?
Probably a little bit. I haven't looked too much. So Shoeless Joe's, he doesn't have a lot of cards to begin with. So his cards always sell for huge money just because they're very rare. But Pete Rose will be an interesting one because there's a lot of people that collect Hall of Fame rookies, and his is 63 Topps. So I think that one will see a jump in value based on the fact that people are going to look at it as, all right, this is probably somebody who could be into the Hall of Fame now. I'm going to need it to put in my Hall of Fame collection. And I think they'll see a jump for that reason.
So let's say in Rose's case that 2-3 years down the road, he becomes a Hall of Famer. Is that an automatic boost to what the card is worth?
Probably his rookie will go up, yes. After that, you'll see a little bit of a bump. In this industry, you always see Hall of Fame inductions. Unfortunately, when players pass away, you always see a little bit of a jump. When Rickey Henderson passed, his rookie cards took a jump. And then it kind of, comes back down to what, market was. But you can definitely see when a player goes in the Hall of Fame, there's big news about them, something like that. You'll see, an uptick in value or uptick in sales. And then it'll teeter back down to where it was. But they always stay a little bit higher than what it was originally.
This is a fascinating industry. Billy Hinton joins us from Baseball Card Exchange. So what's the craziest bump you've seen from a player? And I guess I'll throw it this way. Let me start with Joe DiMaggio, who had a great career, is kind of thought of as a mystery, didn't talk to a lot of people, unlike Pete Rose, who was out there hawking constantly. What about DiMaggio?
DiMaggio kind of falls into that pre-war category. Before 1948, you didn't see mass production of cards. So DiMaggio only has, a little bit more than a handful. You're looking at, 39 play ball, 38 Gaudis, stuff like that. His stuff always demands a good premium. You don't see a ton of jumps in players like that now just because they're never really in the news, right? He's passed away. He's in the Hall of Fame. DiMaggio is DiMaggio is DiMaggio at this point. But his stuff always demands, a good value just because there's not a lot of it out there. If you want to talk like craziest jump we've seen recently, do you remember the Last Dance documentary that came out during COVID?
Oh, sure. My buddy Will Perdue was right in the middle of it.
Yep. Jordan cards after the Last Dance saw probably the biggest uptick I think we'll ever see in the industry. I mean, just astronomical numbers his rookie cards were demanding after that came out. His stuff went wild.
That's interesting because that was, for those who had forgotten, it was a 10-part deal right in the middle of COVID where we couldn't get out at all. We couldn't do anything. We were socially distanced. I had never heard that term until we had COVID. And that was one of the, we had no sports going on. I looked forward every Sunday night to those two segments.
Yep. And that was the crazy thing about, when COVID happened is, in the industry, I think a lot of shops, kind of went into a small panic mode thinking there's no sports on TV. Who's going to care about sports cards at this time? And then you saw the exact opposite happening with, the Last Dance documentary getting people into it and online breaking. But, before COVID, I think Jordan PSA 10 rookies, they were probably in like the $30,000 range. It wasn't a cheap card for a PSA 10. There was a few recorded sales during COVID after the Last Dance that got close to $1 million.
What would Will's card be worth? Since I'm going to talk to him later this weekend, I'm really hoping it's way, way down where I can dust him.
That'd be funny.
Will produce, rookie cards, a few bucks. Great player, but comparing it to Jordan isn't fair, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, comparing dadgum near anybody with Jordan.
Yep.
Billy, what do you got?
Billy,
by the way, Billy's going to get some Oreos here in a minute.
Okay. What about me?
You don't get squat.
George,
don't you have questions?
You're opening them in front of our guests.
Who cares?
That's disrespectful.
No, it's not disrespectful.
Billy,
this was given as a gift.
Whatever. We talked about Michael Jordan's basketball cards. Were there any that came out of him when he was on the Birmingham Barons?
There are a couple. 91 Upper Deck had a short print of him with the White Sox. A couple years after that, Upper Deck has a few, there's a handful of them. There's not a ton, but the 91 Upper Deck short print is the most well-known of him playing baseball.
Okay, I got another question. Anytime you go to spring training, you got guys with the binders that come up with is that just, is there a player where maybe he's young, but he's 5 or 6 years away from maybe having value? Is that something that you see and hear a lot of? Because I certainly do whenever I go to spring training and even some college games like the SEC tournament, you'll have guys with the binders, but they're waiting on the value.
Yeah, I mean, I think the autograph chasing, it's definitely a part of the industry, but I think it's a different side of it. Yeah. I would say most dealers in the room, they're not probably chasing autographs. But there are a ton of people that go and do it, and I think that's a lot of times, I think that's your true collectors. A lot of times, that go down there. I know when I was a kid, I used to do it all the time. I'd go down, I see my grandparents and you take your cards to the spring training games. But we went down there, me and my wife went 2 years ago, and you still see all the people with the binders, and it's crazy. They'll have players sign 14, 15 cards. But I think they're just, hoping that one of them, pops off in a few years and they can go back and say, I got some autographs of them. And
one of them's Paul Skeens, of course, but who are some other younger guys, and even maybe not as young, that have the most value right now? If you were to look at maybe the top 5 cards available right now.
Last year's rookie class was really good with, Jackson Churio, Jackson Holiday, Jackson Merrill. You had the 3 Jacksons last year, right? Yeah. It was a great year rookie wise. I would say those are probably your top names that we get asked for, the Wyatt Langford from Texas. This year you have James Wood, you have Dylan Cruz. So those are probably your names that you're looking at if you're looking for young stars.
If we can get 2 more Jacksons, would they be the Jackson 5?
It could be.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I was dying to say that.
Yes. Thank you.
Turn me off.
It looks like you're a White Sox fan. Did you hear the Pope is a White Sox fan?
I did. Yes. That's been the talk of the town. I was actually in the back earlier talking to Denny McClain's back there, and he's local to where I'm from. He went to Mount Carmel High School. And so we were talking about how the Pope is a local boy now.
Yeah.
So
what's what's going on with the Sox? Can they get it righted? Can they right the ship? I know they no longer have the worst record in the league. The Rockies now own that.
The Rockies might own the worst record ever after the end of the year. We might only own that for 1 year, which would be incredible that the other one lasted for so long. And, we might be out of it after a year. But, man, I don't know. They're a frustrating team to be a fan of. Yeah. They have, kind of the same thing we saw a few years ago. They said they had all the prospects that, you needed. None of them really panned out to be what they thought they would. A couple of them did, but then you traded them right away. And so they're stacked up again. And hopefully this time the prospects hit and things click. But yeah, I don't know. I've stopped putting too much of my stock in there. It's too stressful.
Well, there's going to be people walking in here throughout the weekend that'll put stock in a lot of these items.
For sure.
What do you guys have available? I know you hit on it throughout the entirety, but what do you guys have a focus with what you guys brought coming into the weekend?
Yeah, so our company is one of the ones known in the industry for like older vintage wax, 1980s, 70s, that type of stuff. So we have a few showcases of modern. We have a couple showcases, vintage cards. There's some Mantles, some Jackies, some Ted Williams, those type of names. We have two showcases over there, which is consignment items. Our auction house is BBCE Auctions. So our next one opens July 30th. So we have some cool items over there that people have consigned so far. We brought a few with us. I wanted to bring, we have a 58 tops 5-cent wax pack that somebody has consigned that's probably should get in the 125,000 range for that one pack of cards. And then down at the end, we have some of those wax boxes like I was talking about from the 80s and 70s.
Last question from me. I've always wanted, how much does a Hank Aaron rookie card go for?
Depends on the grade. A low grade now is probably in the $2,000 range. They've jumped up a little bit for like a PSA 1. I mean, high grades, you're talking six figures for sure. If you got into the 9s, and I don't even know if there's a 10 that exists, to be honest with you. But
so high grade, those are rare, right?
Very rare. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about cards that are, some of them coming up on, 80 years old now, which is just crazy to think about that it's been that long. But, back then, people that walk the show this weekend, if they open a box of cards, they're going to put it, if they get a good rookie, they're going to put it in a penny sleeve, they're going to put it in a top loader, they're going to put it in a box and take care of it. Back in the day when you were opening 1954 tops, they were toys back then. People traded them, they put them in their bike spokes. So when you come across vintage that's really clean and, looks like it was just open, I mean, it's like a trip back in time. But that's what makes it worth so much money is nobody, very rarely did people take care of the cards back then. And whether they did the 70 years since then, at some point in time, they got shuffled around and, dinged up. So it's cool stuff.
I feel like for one of the first times our show has been educational. I can't often say that.
Well, hopefully I said something to help somebody learn a little something about the industry.
Billy, for being our guest, you'll receive some complimentary Oreos courtesy of Tess Kutras.
Thank you. This worked out even better for me then.
Thank you for coming on.
Of course. Thanks so much.
After the break, we'll meet one of my best friends, Lebanon citizen, Chris Kutras, who has a son who's a darn good football player. We're going to talk about that next on 94.9 The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun. This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
At Wilson Bank and Trust, we believe you shouldn't have to choose between personal service and digital solutions. As your local independent bank, we're proud to offer the relationships and trusted service you expect, along with the tools and technology that keep you moving forward. So whether you're growing a business, buying a home, or planning for the future, we're here to help. Because this isn't just where we work, it's where we live too. Wilson Bank and Trust, here to get you there. Member FDIC.
.com. That's the NashvilleCats.com.
At Wilson Bank and Trust, we believe you shouldn't have to choose between personal service and digital solutions. As your local independent bank, we're proud to offer the relationships and trusted service you expect, along with the tools and technology that keep you moving forward. So whether you're growing a business, buying a home, or planning for the future, we're here to help. Because this isn't just where we work, it's where we live too. Wilson Bank and Trust, here to get you there. Member FDIC.
Two total screw-ups of humongous proportions.
Sports. We're not living in an era where perfection is necessary.
They thought they were a championship contending team.
Here, we told you not to do this. Your sports live here.
On ESPN 94.9.
And the Game Nashville Sports Network. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
So the moral of the story is, if you're watching us by way of podcast, I'm holding up a big batch of Oreo cookies that were given to me as a birthday present by Tess Koutras, and the present was delivered by my good friend Chris Koutras, who joins us at our broadcast site. If the name sounds familiar, it's definitely a football family. Chris's father, Nick Koutras, was the legendary high school football coach at Overton High School for years, built them into a state power. Later was the head football coach at Cumberland University. Chris played for Watson Brown at the University of Cincinnati. And Chris's son, Timothy, is a two-time All-OVC defensive back, safety at Tennessee Tech University. It's a football family.
Well, thank you, George. Welcome to Lebanon.
Yeah. It's not the first time I've been here.
No, it's not.
It's the first time I've been given Oreos, though.
And you're still receiving free food.
Not much has changed. So, when you look back on it, I mean, your life has been a ton of football.
Absolutely, George. I'd have to give credit to my father, Nick Koutras, who was the son of a Greek immigrant, and his father never ever watched him play a game of football until he was a senior at Middle Tennessee State University, and they were playing Vanderbilt. So there was not a father that was really involved in his sporting life, and he actually made a tremendous impact with me and how I was raised, and his lessons that he learned from his coaches in Nashville at Hillsborough High School, and that with Coach Murphy at Middle Tennessee. And I think a lot of those lifelong lessons were passed on to me.
What do you think he'd think right now in a day and era of NIL and transfer portal and all that kind of stuff?
I think he would say, "Oh boy."
No, you kept it really clean, didn't you? That wasn't what you were thinking.
No.
So we read earlier, Billy and I read the whole Caleb Williams and his dad thing in this book that Seth Wickersham has written, and it's clear that Caleb Williams didn't want to be a Chicago Bear. I've never been in the position of having to be the father of an athlete. That's not easy, is it?
No, it's not. I lived under the same roof as my father, who was my coach in high school, and it was very difficult. I tell some of my friends that probably one of the most enjoyable years I played football was in ninth grade. He wasn't on the field with me in ninth grade, but I could call my own plays. We had a lot more fun, and we ended up winning a state championship, but there was always this pressure that was applied just because, well, you're the coach's son. Now, he did not ever talk football at the house. I can't ever recall.
Really?
No, not in regards to Overton High School, not in regards to any of the player situations that were on the team. It was left at Overton, but you still felt that there was there. Now, on weekends, if we were watching a college game or if he was watching film in his film room, he would call me in to say, look at this play, dude, look at this tremendous athlete, look at this quarterback, how he's doing something. But when it came down to, saying, you need to work on this play and, we've got to get better for the game Friday night or this, none of that ever transpired.
How hard is it, though, now the role's different? You're the parent, you've got a son, you want the best for your son, but you also have to balance that with, okay, how does that fit for the team?
Right. I probably interjected more watching Timothy than my father interjected with me. When I was watching him, and whether it was in youth football, whether it was in high school or now in college, I probably watch and look at film, try to advise him. Now, my father did not do that. He left me totally alone. I was on my own. And, I think Timothy has, listened to me. I think sometimes it comes in, in one out the other. But, he still says, and I said, what happened on that play or what happened? He'll say, I'll watch him at the bench and I'll catch everything. He goes, you see everything. I was a former defensive back. And so you're sitting here looking at the keys. You're looking at how the defensive coordinator, typically, since Tim's the free safety, he calls a lot of the defenses. The defensive coordinator would meet Tim halfway out on the field. They would have a discussion as they were going off. And, I'm sitting there analyzing, seeing how those conversations are transpiring.
His team's got a chance to be really good, don't they?
I think so. Coach Wilder, who came into Tennessee Tech a year ago, they ended up tying for the the OVC championship. And actually, they won 5 games at the end of the season. They beat UT Martin. They beat Tennessee State. They won the Sergeant York Trophy. And, they were on an upside. They did not make the playoffs, but they still tied for the OVC championship. Right now, I think they're ranked 18th in the country. And I think, if I recall correctly, when Tim probably arrived in Cookeville 2 years ago, I think they were probably ranked 120th. So they've made some drastic changes, and I think you have to give a lot of credit to the president up at Tennessee Tech, President Odom, and the former athletic director, and Bobby Wilder. That they have made a lot of unique changes that have put Tennessee Tech on the map, because they haven't been ranked in the FCS, at least to the best of my knowledge, in my lifetime.
So when I asked you to come on, you looked like I had offered you a hand grenade. This wasn't all bad, was it?
No, not at all.
It was easy.
Yes.
And these are really good. Tess, if you're listening or watching, thank you. Chris, appreciate you coming over here.
All right, George. Come to Lebanon anytime. Billy, good seeing you.
Good to see you, Chris.
Not the first time, won't be the last. Plaster bet of the day. Got 2 of them. We're on a 2-game winning streak. This is 94.9 The Fan.
Looking for your favorite sports?
How about sports? You follow sports?
We probably have it. Just log on to the information superhighway. Oh, they don't call it that anymore?
To start, press any key. Where's the any key?
Head to thegamenashville.com.
The password. We're in.
You'll find what time your game starts and what station it's on.
Oh, they have the internet on computers now.
That's what's up. Your sports live here.
What an age we live in.
On the Game Nashville Sports Network.
Family Leisure invites you to vacation at home with a new spa, pool, patio furniture, or wood play gym this summer.
I really want a spa.
40 spas on display from Artesian, Best Spas, and American Select.
Prices starting as low as $29.99.
Family Leisure has over 100 sets of patio furniture with free delivery.
That sounds good to me, too.
We should really look at the wood play gyms for the kids. Family Leisure has the Diamond Point swing set on sale at only $24.99 installed. Family Leisure's vacation at home sale in Franklin and Antioch.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
A little desperado to close out on a Friday. It's time now for Bart Durham Injury Law Bet of the Day. Got some NHL action, NBA action tonight. We'll see where George is going with Bet of the Day. Take a look first, though, at what happened last night.
Oh, yeah.
Denver, +5. They won, forced a Game 7, and Winnipeg got it done. 2-0.
2-0. So we got a 2-game winning streak. Here goes. Tonight will be one of those special nights at the Garden. Madison Square Garden will be hopping. And there will be a pressure on the Knicks to deliver because let's face it, the last thing in the world the Knicks want is to go to a Game 7 in Boston. They got to win tonight. The one thing I think you can guarantee is that Jalen Brunson will be on because the guy is always on. He's amazing.
But what does everybody else do?
Yeah, and I say they do enough to win the series, and send Boston packing. Now, the problem is whoever ends up winning this series will get the Indiana Pacers, who are well-rested, and they are deep. Indiana's going to come out of the East.
New York needs to win this tonight. They get it over.
But I think the Knicks are going to win tonight and win this series in a major upset, and 3/4 of it they earned while Jason Tatum was on the floor, not off the floor. Knicks tonight. Okay, on the hockey end, a couple of things. First, Florida, you got to lay a huge number here, but it might be worth it. They opened the series 0-2. They got beat twice in Toronto. And then they really showed why they're the defending Stanley Cup champions, won 2 in a row at home, and then blasted Toronto in Toronto a couple of nights ago. If they score early, if they score the first goal, they win this thing in a rout. I'm taking the Panthers, but you got to lay huge odds. And I'm going to add one more, and that's tomorrow night in Big D. Dallas has been forced into a Game 6 against good old Winnipeg. Winnipeg is done. Dallas tomorrow night in the American Airlines Center. And Kelly Holcomb, if you're listening or watching, book it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Dallas. Book it.
First book it in a while.
Yeah.
Dallas, they need to go ahead and win it.
Yeah, and they will. I want to thank, as we end the show, most importantly, Tess Koutras for these Oreos, but want to thank Jeff Lowe, who had us come out here. Here being the Farm Bureau Expo Center at the James Ward Ag Center grounds in Lebanon, Tennessee. The Sports Spectacular and Collectible Expo. Now, that's a mouthful, but as you can see in the background, there's a lot of activity. There's a lot of great card collecting. If you get into that, come out here this weekend. You'll really enjoy it. For Billy Derrick, for Chris Koutras, and for the Oreos, most importantly, hope all of you have a great weekend. Drive safely. Looks like the weather's going to get a little hairy late tonight. So long, everybody.